I'm Jim Worthen. The show is Worthen One-on-One, but we have a new tag today. It's called Worthen One-on-One University. Today's show is the nexus between government in politics and the operational side of politics. The endorsements that we will come to come from a blend of rights given in the state law and the bylaws, which Chairman McGinnis will talk about, guiding how endorsements are made. They're not made like there's groups with doing endorsements on all sorts of races, and they're, for want of a better term in politics, they're self-appointed. They decided that they would, 2 or 3 gals or guys at a golf course decide, oh, why don't we get a group together and endorse? And they're, it's what it's worth, but it's not official. Now, how can it be official? I'm going to start out with the nexus between the government and politics. The state law has, in the election code, the guidelines for each official party. Now, official parties are those who've reached certain criteria, obviously Democrat and Republican. The Libertarian has consistently, I think they still are an official party. The Greens, I know, are an official party. There's other parties that have massive registration, like the American Independent Party, but are not organized because that's a quirk in the law. The American Independent Party is a party that was formed for segregation in 1972 by George Wallace, just before he was shot in Atlanta. And he survived being shot, and but his party went on and got millions of votes. Well, we call them the apes, those old timers, we call them the apes, American Independent Party. And what happens in California, and happen more frequently, but you go in and at registering your car or getting your license or anywhere where the government wants you to register, and people would say, we're independent. And they would be registered as an American Independent. I found out that a great local actor and contributor to our community, Kevin Costner, Mr. Yellowstone, is registered as an American Independent. I was checking to make, I couldn't believe his politics would be Democrat, but I thought maybe it'd be Republican. Well, obviously, he registered as an independent, and whoever the bureaucrat was doing it officially made him an American Independent Party member. So first, there is an election code. The parties have influenced it through the legislature. In other words, Republicans, Democrats, the 2 major parties, their legislators tell what is to be written by the legislative analysts and the people who write the legislation, and then both parties unanimously vote for that section of the election code that each party wants. So in California, the official party is for us, it's the Republican Party of California, and each county has the Republican Party of Santa Barbara County. And under the election code, it is formed in certain ways, including an election of members to the central committees by supervisorial districts every 4 years at the presidential election primary. That's where we are right now, and with that I want to introduce the chairwoman. You call yourself chairwoman?
Chairwoman, yes.
Of the Republican County Central Committee. In other words, the legal body of the Republican Party. There's all sorts of volunteers. There's a couple of major volunteer groups that have luncheons and speakers and dinners that are Republican, and God bless them, we like that, but they have no official legal standing. They barely have a standing if they want to come and ask the Central Committee if they can be certified. But that's, again, just a volunteer thing. I don't know that any in this county have gone that far. But there is an election, as I say, and you will find on your ballot by your supervisorial district the names of people who are running for the Central Committee from that district. Now, Bobbi, the northernmost district, the 5th supervisorial district, has 2 Republicans to be elected.
Yeah, in fact, what happened, the determination of how many committee members, there's 21 total, and it's determined by how many Republicans voted in the last presidential election and in each district. So in Supervisor District 5, the new Supervisor District 5, it's based upon the percentage, and that percentage produced two members from that section of the county. In District 4, we had a lot more Republicans voting, and they now have 7 members of their committee will be on the committee
Of
from
the
there.
21 members, 7 come
from the 4th district, which includes Vandenberg Village, Orchid, and a part of Santa Maria. Then you have 3rd district now, which includes a portion, about a third of the voters are from Goleta, the most east, I guess it would be the all around Dos Pueblos High School, a portion of the downtown Goleta Old Town, and then of course Santa Barbara Shores and North.
Well,
that's part of 3rd district, and then you have Lompoc, the city of Lompoc, and San Ynez Valley, now part of the new district, 3rd district supervisor, and they have 5 members now. And then we have in the new 2nd district has 4 members, and then the new 1st district has 4 members.
Now that's to elect in March the Central Committee that will take office in January.
January 2025.
Just like if you elect a sheriff, a county clerk, a supervisor in the primary election, they don't take office till the next January.
Right.
And so
True.
Who decides? You say it's by
it's a mathematical formula determined by the county elections office.
So
it's actually part of state code, and then they figure out what the actual percentages are. It's not the registered voters, it's the number of Republican voters that have voted in the last election. And I believe it's based on 2020, but it might be the 2022 election. I'm not clear on that.
I think it's based on the last presidential election, but it's the county clerk who, as a bureaucrat, sets those numbers. It's not a political decision.
Yeah, we don't set the numbers, but it's pretty easy for us to verify their math, and we came up with basically the same numbers. The thing that's interesting about this year, most of the time the Central Committee is looking for members to join because it's a volunteer organization. No one's getting paid working for the Central Committee.
You don't get the big bucks?
No. We're all volunteers.
Costs you a lot of money.
Yeah, but we're all volunteers. And so this year, the exciting news for me is I was hoping actually to have all 5 districts on the ballot, because but we had a couple people who didn't get enough nomination papers, and their paperwork was not done properly. So in District 5, there were 3 people we were hoping to be on the ballot, but for the 2 spots, but it turned out none of them qualified to be on the ballot.
So let's step back to that nexus of government. And I had to do it, and I was in the hospital, so if you and other people did it for me, you have to gather 30 signatures?
Well, technically you have to have 20 signatures that qualify to get you on the ballot.
In your district.
In your
supervisorial district.
And they have to be registered Republican.
Yeah.
Like we had a few people in 5th district that got a lot of signatures. People thought they were registered Republican, but they were independent. So therefore, all of a sudden, they didn't have enough signatures. So the county elections office, who are very helpful on this, they recommend that you get 30 signatures.
And they will review them in advance of the closing date. So past years, I've done this, I hate to admit it, 4 times. So that goes back, 16 years or something.
Yes, a long time.
And I have taken in a week before the final date for the signatures and have had them say, oh, these 2 people don't qualify. When I had gone down the voter rolls and thought I had the people, it happened that people moved across the street. They were Republicans on X street, and I got them to sign, but they had moved across the street in their voting rights, and so they were
in a different district.
Yeah, well, they were in the same district, but they were disqualified for improper address.
Oh, improper address.
So
oh my goodness.
We've had people.
There's lots of little fluky things. I had a blind man who his wife signed for him, and choose the power of attorney. They wouldn't accept it because he had to have his X on it. Yeah. So it's
a very
it's
a nexus of politics and government.
Right.
And the government is even-handed. And
so what ended up happening is in District 5, nobody qualified, so they're not on the ballot. And District 4, there were 7 people qualified for 7 spots, so they're not on the ballot. But in District 1, 2, and 3, we have more people applying to be on the Central Committee who qualified that are running for the spots than we have spots available, and that's why they're on the ballot and we're having an election.
And that's even more confused this time in that we had a adjustment by reapportionment of the supervisorial districts.
Yeah.
And for instance, I've been in the 3rd district for I think the last 8 years. Now I'm in the 2nd.
Right. I was in 2nd district and I'm now in 1st.
Yeah. So again,
that's why on the ballot it doesn't say incumbent underneath my name, because now I'm in a new district. I'm no longer an incumbent of that district, even though I've been chair since 2019.
So
the rules are the rules.
Yeah, this is why we had a tag. This is Worthen One-on-One University. We're educating the people because it's important when you talk about endorsements, because who's doing this? You know, as I said, 3 guys at a golf course who decide they're going to, and that happens.
Right.
And are 6 housewives of the same neighborhood saying, we've got to get Joan in, and that they have every right. That's great.
Right.
They can put out their endorsements, and there are groups who will acknowledge good Republicans, hard workers, who have formed endorsement slates that are different than the certified slates of the Republican Party. Now, you don't want to say this, but I will. You kind of know people by the way they write and talk. And you'll look at the Central Committee and the way it is endorsing people, and you'll look at some of these other groups and watch the words. They're not as nice. They're critical of other Republicans. They're not vicious, but they say things like, we need to change. The Central Committee hasn't been successful, which isn't true. And so watch whether they're running on their own merits. I got into a little tiff with one of our supporters because she was being in a cat fight. And I said, I reminded her of biblically, the 10 Commandments that don't bear false witness. And then I reminded her of Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, don't speak ill of other Republicans, and she was doing both.
I've been telling people this is a friendly race. We did have an endorsement, and when you get the endorsement from the Central Committee, we have 21 people who are able to vote. Those are their regular members. At the night of the endorsement, we had 21 people who qualified, and then the endorsements were done with 2 counters. It was all by secret ballot, and then the people who are on the voter guide. This is our voter guide, which you will be receiving on your doorstep. We have a slate mailer going out that's got a little fancier. It's got pictures of people. These are the people that we endorsed as our committee, And that means that they receive 2/3 of the committee's endorsement in order to get onto our website and to be onto our voter guide.
No, that's not the state law. That's the bylaws.
That's the bylaws of our committee. That's
And
what requires an endorsement.
I was going to lead to that there's a state law, and then each organization
has their own bylaws.
and we have to abide by both.
Yes, like some of the central committees around the state, their bylaws will not allow them to endorse for the central committee. I felt it was a fiduciary responsibility we had to our voters to be able to pick the best people we felt capable to carry on the good work that our committee has done in the last few years. And just to let you know, Jim, like the last convention, we had 21 delegates from Santa Barbara County that went to the convention in California, the California state convention. Again. We had in 2022 we had 66 out of 99. There were 99 open seats. That means people up for election. We had 66 of our candidates actually won their seats. Many of them, 42 of them, walked in unopposed. So one of the things that happened when I took over as chair in 2019, I realized that the most important thing we can do in politics is to at least give people a choice. Because you never know when people are fed up enough or want change enough that they're gonna vote against their party and vote for your party. We have like 28% of our county registered voters are Republicans. I don't know what the percentage is of Democrats, but it's quite a large percentage of Democrats.
40.
And I know that we have 40,000 independents. So the independents really swing the chalice either way. The vote, whoever wins the election, if it's not the Democrat outright, it's going to be a Republican with independent and Democrats supporting them as well.
Well, the great thing that resulted in those victories that you did and other members members of the committee, you made sure that there was a conservative, business-oriented, and/or Republican. We couldn't endorse a Democrat or a Green or even a Libertarian, but the law allows, back to the state law, allows the Central Committee to endorse Republicans and is it anyone?
And a no party, in our bylaws, I don't know what the state law says, but I know the bylaws, our bylaws say that we're allowed to endorse Republicans, and if there's not a Republican running in a race, an independent that is running for that spot or declined to state.
We got to quit using that independent.
You're right, because that's its own party. You're right. It's a no party preference is actually what the county calls it.
Yeah. So you were able to recruit how many?
So the number of people that are running for the Central Committee, it turned out in District 1 we have 8 running for 4 spots. In District 2, I believe it's 6 running for 4 spots. And then District 3, we have 6 running for 5 spots. So in each of you have to look at your ballot. It tells you how many votes, how many people you can vote for. And we are recommending that you look at our voter guide, and these are the people we would recommend for our Central Committee going forward in 2025.
And you just didn't pick these people. These people won the endorsement by getting 2/3 of the standing committee's vote.
That's exactly
right. And there's
right.
others who got, let's use the 16 members of the 21. There are others who got 12, and they didn't get the endorsement because they failed to meet the thresholds. But back to your success, because that speaks to where we're going.
Not my success, our success.
Yeah. So
I don't do this alone.
You looked at dog catchers. No, we don't have any of those.
Sanitation, water, school board, city council. There's a lot of races.
Nonpartisan races.
That really impact our community.
And there were, I think, 90 2 years ago?
In 2022, there were 99 openings, or what I call openings, or people that are up for election, of which we had 66 that came forward and said they would run. If some of them were incumbents, but many of them were people who actually walked and are serving for the first time. They walked into their seats unopposed.
Yeah, and again, the structure, our bylaws, you can't say, I like you, we're going to endorse you. The candidate has to request the endorsement.
The candidates request the endorsement. So for our central committee meeting for the endorsements, we had, because there were so many, there were 20 people that qualified to be on the ballot. So we had all 20 come to a Zoom meeting the week before our regular meeting, give their presentation to the committee, and everybody attended. I believe we had 100% attendance that night, and all of the candidates had a chance to present. There were two that one had surgery, another person was called away on business, so we had somebody else.
Now this is for candidates for the central committee.
For central committee.
Yeah.
This was kind of done a little differently because we had so many candidates. So we gave them an evening to give a 3 to 5 minute presentation, and everybody was able to present.
I think I was in the hospital.
That's right, you were in the hospital.
And you did the 2 minutes for me.
Right.
And were very insulting, and you said some nice things about me, but I
was being honest.
Yeah, but you said, and frequently irritating.
And then we had a couple people who couldn't make the meeting because of medical reasons, and those people, then I presented for both of them in addition to presenting for myself. So all the committee had a chance to read everybody's resume, and then they all got on the Zoom, explained why they were running, and then on the night of our regular meeting, we actually had our endorsement meeting, which was all
secret ballot.
By secret ballot. We had Jim Thomas, the sheriff, happened to be there, so he oversaw the collection of the ballots to make sure everything was done properly. 2 counters and a person who called out what the ballot said, and that all went really smoothly. And it took a lot of time to figure out how we were going to do that so that everybody's autonomy was respected.
But again, not everyone got I think that night it took 16 votes. I guess because the bylaws say present and voting.
Right.
So I think you told me there were 2 that
3 that didn't fill out. They didn't fill out certain sections of the ballot. So that actually changed some of the counts a little bit. But
that issue.
But everyone who's on the voter guide, everyone here received 2/3 of the endorsement of the people who were present and voting. And that was overseen also by our parliamentarian.
And again, that's not 6 housewives in Montecito or 3 guys playing golf. That's the legally elected body.
Members.
And some of us were elected 4 years ago and running for re-election.
Right.
I know of one who was elected 4 years ago and passed away due to cancer.
Right.
And
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
And so
openings do come up for various reasons. People leave because of family obligations or health reasons, or they're moving out of state, or they're moving to a different city. There's lots of reasons we have turnover in the Central Committee, and that's why some of the incumbents are appointed rather than elected.
And it's easier to be appointed to the committee because we want workers than it is to get endorsed. It just takes a majority of it.
But what I think is exciting is that we have a robust group of community people who do want to be involved with our committee, who do want to work to turn the county to a more common sense legislation and have fiscal responsibility, fiscal people in elected. So these people who are signing up for the Central Committee, they all want to help our county get better candidates elected. Our sole job at the Central Committee is to elect Republicans to office. And like I said, we did really well in 2022. We had those 66 that managed to win, 42 of which walked in unopposed, and the other 26 were elected on the ballot.
Yeah, we kind of caught the
Democrats by surprise.
Flat-footed, because there was, again, the famous word going back to 1964, there was reapportionment. So for instance, I'll use the example of the San Ynez High School District, and there'd been some problems there that leaned toward the left. And so we looked at it, and there were now 4 districts and 1 at-large person, which is allowed.
Right.
And we got people to file for every district, and it's like, I use the demeaning term, the Democrats all lived on a cul-de-sac up on the hill, and they were all in the same district. And they didn't want to move and give up their $2 million house. So we literally, you say walkover, we had, I think, 3 people who filed for each for their district in that school board that when
2 of them actually walked in unopposed.
Yeah.
And then there were let's see, because we ended up with 4 out of the 5. So Chris Johnson won his at large. He won his at large race. Then you had Sherry Noble. She won her list. She was opposed, so she was on the ballot. But Kathy Velasquez and Susan Shehab both walked in unopposed. So we picked up 4 seats on the San Ynez out of 5.
That's an example of one district. The same thing was happening in county school board,
Orchid School District. A lot. There was a
city council in Carpinteria got realigned.
But that went more to the left.
Yeah.
Where we were unopposed in city council was in Lompoc. So that was a conservative board that was elected.
So there's again the nexus between what government dictates and what politics executes. So coming up on this election, there's setting aside the number of people on the Central Committee, because that's on the ballot, but how many nonpartisan offices are there?
Oh, you mean for the March 5th election?
Yeah.
We've got the County Board of Supervisors. There's 3 races, District 1, 3, and 4. And that's it for the nonpartisan.
Till November.
Well, in the county supervisors, their races could be over March 5th.
Yeah.
The only one likely to go to November is District 3.
But there will be city councils and school boards
there's
in November.
There's 140 open seats in November.
We have
a lot of work to do.
We have the election on March 5th, which are the people we just discussed, Board of Supervisors, and of course the central committees. But then I think it's August through September, there's filings for school districts.
July through I think the end of August is what it is.
City councils.
School districts.
No dog catchers. Why don't we elect dog
water
catchers?
District. Yeah, there's a lot of, and airport districts, there's community service districts. There's 140 elected positions in November.
And the county central committee and the legal body wants to encourage Republican and nonpartisan conservative capitalists,
free market, pro-business,
to run for all those things,
pro-public safety, to run for those offices. That we'll be doing in earnest, looking for those seats right after the March 5th election. But let's talk a little bit about some of the state races that are going on too, because our county committee endorsed Eric Early for the U.S. Senate role.
Right.
And he is now showing up in the polls. So, and he would make an excellent senator. He's been very active in our area in a number of different ways.
Yeah, he was a pro bono attorney for fair education, fighting critical race theory in our schools. And it was the national exposure of this critical race theory people around. It was happening around the country, but people didn't know about it.
Didn't know about it.
And Eric Early and people like James Fentner and
Sheridan
Rosenberg all formed a parents group, Friends of Education, and they sued and they fought and they actually bankrupt the organization that had been doing this for about 10 years.
That's true.
So Eric is a real saint of parents in Santa Barbara County and everywhere, but he proved his sacrifice here. So he's the Senate.
And then we have for our state Senate race, and it's difficult as the minority party here in the county. It's difficult for us to get people who are able to run for office because the Democratic Party has such a huge machine here. It is a machine that when we do bring a quality candidate forward, they will often put stumbling blocks for that person to get on the ballot. In the case of Chrissy Lozano, her race against Superintendent Susan Salcido. Chrissy Lozano was perfectly qualified to be running in that race. They tried to keep her off the ballot, but through John Time, he's a lawyer here in town, he was able to manage to get her back on the ballot and was approved to be on the ballot. She lost the race to Susan Salcido, but since that time, she's been pretty well blackballed by the local school district as well as statewide. She's not been able to get a job in her field. When that happens to you as a private citizen, if you can't get employment after you dare to run for office, then what happens for us the next time round, it's even harder for you to find someone to run in that seat. And so we have had a struggle getting people to run for Congress, people to run for U.S. Senate, and people to run for Assembly, for the state Assembly. But we managed this year. We have a young man running for state Senate. His name is Elijah Mack. I call him the young Abraham Lincoln because he's super tall. He has a very deep voice. And when he speaks so articulately for someone who's 19 years of age. He wants to be the youngest legislator in Sacramento. And he wants us to get back to common sense government, free markets, and get the state out of the county and the city's business, get them out of our planning departments. And he wants to be able to see that schools are teaching STEM and not indoctrination of our kids. So he's really an advocate for conservative causes. And so he's our candidate running against Monique Lamone.
Our schools teach what he wants?
He wants indoctrination out of the schools.
Yeah, but
STEM, it's science, technology, English, and math.
Yeah,
what a concept.
Yeah, I have trying to get my friends and people like you to quit using the acronyms and the in-speak, because 99% of the people out there don't know what we're talking about unless you can say STEM, but then say what it means.
Right.
And he is committed, he said, to run because of the message he's giving. I said, well, you're running in a heavily Democrat district. Mike Stoker couldn't win it. And he said, I'll run every 2 years. I just keep telling the stories, I'm going to college, when I get my profession, I'll just keep get running. My name on the ballot and going and give speeches. And he's just fantastic.
Right, he is very enthusiastic.
But we have a lady
running against Greg Hart, and her name is Sari Dominguez. She is retired.
That's for the Assembly.
No, she's for the Assembly. I'm sorry, State Assembly, District 37. She's running against Greg Hart, and she's a ninth generation Santa Marian. She is a
ninth generation.
Ninth generation. Her
She's
family.
She's got to have some Indian blood in her.
Well, I think it's Portuguese mostly, but it's. She told me, she said she is a true American. She has when she's had her blood analyzed, she has relatives that came from all around the sphere of the world, and so she is a true American, and she is a retired business analyst. She's used to looking at numbers and budgets. She worked for the county of Santa Barbara in an administrative role, and she also worked for the county of Monterey. bright, well-educated.
Not a bureaucrat, but an overseer.
Overseer, yes, an overseer. And she came to me and really wants to see she wants to see much better legislation coming out of Sari. Her name is Sari Dominguez, and she wants, she's passionate about education. She's passionate about public safety. She wants to make sure that the state keeps out of the county and the city's planning departments. She wants the state to get back to where it's fiscally responsible. Right now we have a huge deficit in the state. And so she's fired up, she wants to go, and she wants to serve in the assembly. So I feel very fortunate to have her, because she's such a quality candidate. She's new in politics and new at campaigning, but she has a heart of gold, and she would make an excellent assemblyman. She is not a career politician. She's a local who wants to go to the assembly in Sacramento.
Yeah, I made the motion twice to endorse her, and by beating down other people around me who were going to make it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the reason for her and other Republicans getting endorsed by the Central Committee, they have to ask, and they have to get the
two-thirds majority
to be an official Republican candidate, and that's not always happening. There are races that there's Republicans on the ballot. We encourage people to vote for them, but they haven't earned the endorsement of the party yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
I'm accurate? Good.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that, like, for example, in Supervisor District 1, we can't endorse a Democrat. So you have two Democrats.
We couldn't get a Republican
no Republicans running in that race. So on our voter guide, you'll see "Don't vote for Doss." We did decide that we would not support Doss Williams. We would definitely support every effort to get him out of off the Board of Supervisors. Right. So on our ballot it says, "Don't vote for Doss Williams."
Yeah, I tell people we can't endorse in the name of the Central Committee, and even personally, because I'm so identified, I can't endorse someone running against Doss, who may be a Democrat. But if I was going to vote there, I wouldn't vote for Doss. I'd pick the other guy.
Well, in my neighborhood, for the first time, we're in District 1. And when you look at the things that Doss has done in District 1, people are mad at him about the nets that were, here we've had these heavy rains the last couple of weeks, and they took the netting down in Montecito that was to protect from the debris flow happening there again. Yeah. So Montecitos have been going and getting sandbags, and I look at that and go, wow.
Typical of Doss's section of the county is those nets that were to catch debris and boulders
and prevent another debris flow.
They were paid for by private citizens.
Right.
And the private citizens were ordered to take them down.
Right.
And we have a similar situation in, this area hates oil and hates carbon fuel, but natural seeps, we hear a little bit about them, even though they're the biggest source in the ocean, Coal Oil Point. Toro Canyon, there's a seep of oil that's been going on forever, pouring out and now down the street because the county has failed to keep up its equipment to mitigate it.
Well, the county Board of Supervisors just recently, they had the opportunity to put safety valves on all the pipelines in the county. In fact, Doss, after the Refugio
blowout,
what happened with the oil spilling into the ocean at Refugio Beach, Doss Williams was the assemblyman at the time. He wrote legislation requiring all the counties to have safety valves. And Jim, can you believe it? Doss voted against his own legislation as supervisor. We are one of the few counties in California that don't have safety valves on our oil pipelines, and the oil pipelines are going to be running regardless because they're set to start back in operation in July. And there's nothing the county can do about it. But what they could have done is approved those safety valves put on those oil lines, which if Refugio's pipeline, I forget, it's the American Pipeline was the group, that if they'd had the safety valve on it, the oil would never made it to the ocean.
No.
So it was such a foolish decision by the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah,
and the other thing that DOS has done that I think has really upset people is the regulation on where cannabis growers are located. So when I was in one of the mobile home parks over in Carpinteria. I'm a realtor, and I was over there showing some property, and it was really fascinating to me that, like, you went there in the morning and the air was clear, everyone had their doors open, windows open, and then all of a sudden you get there in the afternoon, the breeze comes up, there's just, it's not just the smell, it's a heavy vapor. It feels like you're breathing in some sort of a smoke or something.
Well,
and these poor people who have lived there for 25 years now have to shut their doors, shut their windows, have air filters on, and in order to be able to hide from the air, the quality of air from the cannabis operations.
The athletic teams there at the high school, which is on Foothill, have to be very careful about when they're practicing. And the mitigation, the spray that's used to mitigate the odor, has some environmental problems. I can remember a couple of times, and your mind just, when you're driving, just looks for something. And the thing you look for when you have this smell is a skunk. Driving up Highway 101 and going through Carpinteria. And
what is that?
You really, the first two times that it hit me, I'm looking for a skunk on the road. And daytime skunks, if they're out, are rabid. And I'm just, and then I realized, no, it's the marijuana over here.
Well, and that's the thing, is that DOS is largely responsible for the close, and they have homes in Carpinteria that are 7 feet away from the greenhouses that are growing cannabis. Now, this isn't an anti-cannabis. Cannabis is legal here in California. We all understand that it's a new industry. We have to, and that it's part of our job and economy. But the poor planning came when you put it 7 feet away from residential neighborhoods. I remember Peter Adam was a supervisor at the time, and he said, we need to make sure that these grows are on 40-acre parcels or larger. That alone, that one decision, would, if they had gone that route, there may have been some problem, but nowhere near the problem you have now. So DOS, that's where your supervisors are making these decisions that really impact your life.
There's always been a question of why the cannabis growth industry went so quickly into Carpinteria, into DOS's district. Now, some people say, well, the Dutch flower growers started growing cannabis, but the county ordinances favored giving a certain amount of acreage to DOS's Carpinteria area, and before they knew it, it had taken all the cannabis acreage for the county. They had to rejiggle so people in Buellton and Santa Maria could
and Los
grow.
Alamos could also have it, yeah.
So DOS, I would like to say that he's less than mentally competent for his job, but others think that he's less than honest.
I just think people don't realize the important role the supervisors have. And it's like we are one election away from changing the direction of our county.
Yeah, let's talk about 3rd District.
Well, like the electrification of the county, the production of oil. We make the cleanest oil in the world in Santa Barbara County.
Right.
And and the oil is being allowed to continue to be drilled, why not, what we have these really strict regulations, why is it they're constantly trying to shut it down and replacing it with solar and wind? You look at the results of what's happening with the wind, how many birds are being eliminated. Like they have to have a special permit in the canyon. It's Megalita Canyon.
Yeah, Megalita.
For all the birds, endangered species birds that are being killed by these wind.
Yeah, they've given them, you can kill so many bald eagles, 13 or something in a year, and falcons, and they've given them a quota.
And then also the idea that we can't use a gas oven or we can't use a gas barbecue. I mean, that is where the county supervisors are going. They're moving more and more in the direction towards getting rid of natural gas, one of the cheapest forms and safest forms of fuel we have.
And cleanest.
And cleanest. And forcing us into electric cars and electrification of our county, meaning they're not going to let new housing be built with gas, natural gas. And all of that is causing us to have scarcity. The other big issue with the county is the state is mandating these high density housing being built at Lacumba Plaza, the high density housing being built at Glen Annie Golf Course. This is there's no pushback from the current supervisors against the state for putting in this big development in areas where we have limited infrastructure, limited water, and limited ability to, and lots of people who don't want that kind of, we don't want to turn Santa Barbara, our beautiful historic city, into Santa Monica.
Well, it's...
And then we have this area of the county, Lompoc, which 30 years ago put all the infrastructure in place for development. And they want growth. They need growth.
Yeah,
they've had that Mervyn's building, retail building, has been empty since 1999.
Yeah, they were all ready for doubling their size and infrastructure.
And then the county's not letting them build.
Well, then the space shuttle failed.
Right.
And that's the crank.
Well, and then 9/11 happened too.
Yeah. And so they've got the infrastructure. They just need more industry and more growth in now the Space Force.
And so there's talk that Google would like to open up an academy. It'll bring 6,000 new jobs into Lompoc. That SpaceX wants to open up a division there. The housing, there's room to build the housing on the infill, and it's just.
I was told Google has a site in Goleta.
A small site, yes. Yeah.
And it's being closed down because they've lost their lease. And I
have not heard that.
I just was told that a few days ago, and our candidate for supervisor has already been pushing
Frank.
to high-tech Lompoc.
Right, well, and the other thing that Frank is doing, Frank Troyce is our candidate for 3rd District Supervisor. He said, hey, our county, the county's own administrator has said if we don't change the revenues stream coming into the county, our county will be broke in 48 months. And therefore, Frank Troyce, on his website, you can see troyce4supervisor.com, you can see his plan on how to bring millions and millions of dollars into the county so that we will be affluent, be self-sufficient, and how we have all the resources in this county to be the wealthiest county in the United States. But we are right now, the way it's being governed with the democratic control of our county government, we are pushing small business out. Look what's happening to the poor landlords, the mom and pop landlords in Santa Barbara and in the county, where they've taken the state rent control, made it much tighter, much to squeeze the small owners out. Jim, this is government wanting to take over our economy. Wow. And when that happens, we lose our ability for people to actually prosper.
One of the insidious things that government has done is like what they're doing to the motel at De La Vina and State, where the housing authority is going to help it's fine that they are going to help the homeless, but that goes off the tax rolls, and they have a lot of property that's been taken off the tax rolls.
So does UCSB.
Yeah,
They've taken a lot of properties off the tax rolls, and I don't see why, when UCSB has its own area, and every time they buy an apartment building, make it into a dorm, it comes off the tax rolls. Why doesn't it say, I think that should be a change in our revenue stream if we just don't let these nonprofits get free property taxes.
Yeah, no, they should, they raise money in other ways. And in fact, the need to pay taxes on their properties should be a incentive to raise money. People who love UCSB give, and they have endowments. This should just be another line item in their annual budget, is to pay the county tax bills, so you and I don't have to pay a portion of it.
So this year, in particular, March 5th, and everybody should know that the ballots are dropping next week, February 5th, 1 month out, 1 week out.
So you can start voting for me next week.
You can start voting for us next week. And we're recommending, like this, the Secretary of State says, don't delay, vote today. And the Republican Party agrees 100%. You absolutely need to be able to vote early. Get your ballot in as early as possible.
Well, when will these hit?
The voter guides are going to be hitting your mailbox next week. It'll be Monday or Tuesday next week.
But you could go to the website right now.
You can go to the website right now, and you can print down the voter guide. We do have volunteer walkers going around dropping these off in the neighborhoods. That'll be happening in earnest in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, go to our website. And the website is sbcrp.org. That's sbcrp.org. And go to voter guide. There's a little menu, voter guide. Click on it. There's a download printable version of the voter guide that you can get right from our website. And yeah, please vote for our endorsed candidates. There was a lot of thought that's gone into vetting those people that we've selected, and we're hoping that you will support our efforts for continuing the work that we've been doing in 2025.
And as I said earlier, there are some fine people on their own slates for the Central Committee. I would say that they didn't go through the endorsement process of getting the
majority,
2/3
right,
of the Central Committee. And it may be those 6 housewives in Montecito, or who knows. But look at the way are they running a positive campaign? Are they attacking me or someone else? What is their attitude toward party politics?
Well, I'm hoping it's a friendly competition. But I loved Cal Thomas is on 99. His ad, he's telling people, make sure you go to your county party's website to get the endorsed candidates and do your own research. We have a lot of talent that's running for the Central Committee, and we also have a lot of talent. That the most important thing happening right now is this March 5th is the county supervisor race. And with what's happened in the national election, I just hope Republicans will get their ballots in by March 5th, because even though the national election is now between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley for Republicans, what's really important is to get these county supervisors elected.
Let's conclude on that supervisorial race and then come back to why people should re-register Republican right now. The supervisorial race could be and should be over on March 5th. The mayor of Lompoc jumped in late in the race, and she is causing a 3-way split. The incumbent, our endorsed candidate, and a fine nonpartisan mayor of Lompoc. Our candidate has to get 51%, or the top 2, we will be going all the way to November. And
so if Republicans vote, we have a very good chance to win this 3rd district supervisor seat. If Republicans will get out to vote and vote for our candidate, don't get swayed. Our candidate, Frank Troyce, is an excellent candidate. He'll make an excellent supervisor. and he's really going to make a difference. We are one election away from making a huge difference in the way this county is functioning, its accountability on funds. And he is a fighter. He's going to fight the state party on all these mandates of this high density housing. It just doesn't make sense.
You said state party, you mean state government.
The state government.
Now,
the state
what's
government.
a good reason to re-register Republican before you vote?
Well, we also have this little pamphlet you may have seen. At the time we printed it, we had all these people were still in the race. And this is that if you want to vote in the Republican primary for president, you have to be a registered Republican.
Yeah.
A lot of no party preference people don't like that. They go, what do you mean I can't vote in the Republican primary? In California, unlike New Hampshire, we have a closed primary in the Republican Party.
Well, and the Democrats do too, but
yes,
if you love MAGA, you have to be registered. If you love Haley, you have to be registered Republican
in order to vote.
In order to vote in the Republican primary.
Mm-hmm. And that can easily be done. It's best if it's done by February 20th. And you can go onto our website, the Santa Barbara SBCRP.org. Go onto our website. You can register right from there, or you can register at the Secretary of State's office. Either way.
You could even.
But you have to register Republican if you're going to vote in the Republican primary.
You could even ask it when you go in to vote. They say you can't have a Republican ballot. You could even ask for the registration, and they'll let you vote provisional, and you will ultimately be counted. The biggest thing is you have to be registered Republican to vote for you or me.
Oh yeah, that's true. So in order to vote for the Central Committee and the President, you have to be registered Republican, and it has to be a Republican ballot.
Right.
Right.
Well, Bobbi, I've told people this, and I know some of our kind of opponents in the Central Committee. I've worked since Lago-Mercino for Senate with probably 10 county chairs. You are the best chairperson that I have ever worked with or seen.
Well, I have a very good team behind me. And
you're so modest. But you are working all the time. I don't know how you ever get in a golf game, but I know you do.
I manage. Yeah, I'm really passionate about changing. I know that our county can be functioning at look at our roads, the condition of our roads. There's so many things that we can improve, but people remember to vote in the March 5th primary, get your ballot in, don't delay, vote today, vote early, and vote for Republicans.
And unlike the Democrats, you can't vote early and often. You can only vote once.
Only vote once. Yeah, that is true.
Well, thank you, Bobbi.
Well, thank you, Jim. Great talking to you today. All right.